I could sound like probably one of the most famous podcasters really easily just by clicking a
In real
button, and
time.
it's pretty nuts. So that's sort of what you can do with this tech.
I am incredibly excited about this episode today. I'm here with Heath Ahrens from Voice.ai. This is such a cool voice to voice AI application, real-time voice changer that gives you any kind of voice filter you want, gives you any kind of real-time audio changing that you want, and it is going to absolutely be in everybody's face over the next couple of years. I absolutely believe in that. Thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Of course, it's a pleasure.
Just kind of, very, as briefly or as in depth as you want, how did you come up with this? What was the motivation to spend what clearly was a lot of development time and effort on making something this cool? So just kind of give me a little bit of a background on voice.ai.
So yeah, I'll give you background. Yeah, I've been hacking around since I was a kid, hacking the Oregon Trail a long time ago on an Apple II GS, and eventually got into speech technology. Ended up building what ended up being the first cloud provider of text to speech. That was called iSpeech back in 2007. Unfortunately, the company was super tied into BlackBerry and what they were doing, and didn't end up working out, but in the long run. But we learned a lot there. Ended up getting into facial rec, building out Haystack, and then getting back into speech. Actually, it was I never really stopped researching speech. It was sort of a weekend passion thing.
Sure.
And one of the other co-founders and I, we decided, hey, we're gonna really try to get into voice to voice, and we want to do it in real time or as fast as we possibly can. And we had a huge breakthrough, and then it was like, okay, the tech is here. Now we just sort of have to build a product. That was like a year and a half ago. That's how long it kind of took the progression to actually get anything out the door. I mean, it's incredibly complex tech, but we're kind of trying to make it simple. So
That's super cool. And so you had that kind of breakthrough, that kind of moment of like, oh, okay, like this is actually gonna be like the tech is there. How do we make our product into it? And so did you build the initial draft yourself? Did you guys like did you have a team of people that write the code, or how did you guys go about doing that?
the initial version was super bare bones. I mean, it was really really ugly, and it functioned, but yeah, it was just me and two other guys that that known been working with, one of them for 13 years, the other for 11, and we put it together into a working application. And then we decided, you know what, for this project, we're not gonna be the ones who decide how it goes. We're going to, we're gonna really try to see where the market is for it first. So we decided, let's launch it as a beta. Let's keep it closed. The people who are really eager, who find us, and that's sort of our strategy for it. Was not, hey, we're gonna do this top down thing and tell you how it works. We're gonna basically see if we can create a real community here, and that's what's happened. I mean, it actually, I basically said, you know what, don't listen to me. Let's listen to the people who are actually using it, and they'll tell us what we need to build.
Right.
So I guess, if you wanted to put it into like industry lingo, product led growth, but
Right.
community led product. Yeah.
For sure. So, on the machine learning side, a little bit more. So you said you're a machine learning engineer. You have a partner that's a machine learning engineer, and what do you feel like really made a big difference in terms of like the papers that came out that changed how the audio synthesis and audio transcription stuff changed?
Well, it was more for us, it was more of the realization that, this is coming from sort of, uh, you know, we tried to build this in 2015, and it didn't work out the same way. The original version that we built of voice to voice uh, was basically speech recognition, and then converting that into a text-to-speech engine with someone else speaking. And it was like, okay, how fast can we do that? And there's, systems that do that. I think there's one of them that's being used in a call center, which is, pretty convincing. They do a little NLU and sort of, change the words that are coming out so it sounds like a native speaker, and and you could change the language as well, which is all really cool stuff. The big sort of differentiator from us was, I guess, when we threw a lot of data at it. So we were able to stockpile a ton of data, um, and basically rethink it from the ground up. Like, hey, this isn't text to speech, this isn't speech recognition. Even though we know a lot about that tech, this is not that. Let's sort of rethink this. Let's let the model figure it out. Let's not, um, let's not sort of try to label everything and try and let's build something totally from the ground up. And that was actually, it's crazy. Once we started looking at it from a, hey, we thought of it in a lot of different ways. Like, oh, like, should we go, how much processing should there be in there? Should it be just pure voice to voice? Should there be some sort of, speech recognition part of it that kind of corrects what you're saying? How are we going to deal with accents? How, there's all these questions that sort of come in there. Like, so if you have a Southern accent, do you want, the voice who has a Boston accent to come out sounding like they're from Boston, or do you want it to sound Southern? And so there's all these questions that sort of come up along the way, and it's
just
crazy.
funny to me because
But
this is a lot of the stuff that me and my nerdy friends would talk about late at night, that we were like, nah, I wonder if this could ever be a thing, like, I wonder if the technology is ever going to be there. And like, now it's real, and it's like, yeah, it's very much becoming an application. Like, it's no longer, not even really just a toy or even just something for fun. Like, there's a lot of real world application to it now. um
yeah, it's to us, the sort of aha moment was when we tested it and we were showing it to people, and you know
I could sound like probably one of the most famous podcasters really easily just by clicking a
in
button,
real
and
time.
it's pretty nuts. So that's sort of what you can do with this tech.
it's crazy. I mean,
It's crazy. It's
back to
crazy.
me.
It's absolutely
Back to me.
crazy. No, for sure. And like, so the cool thing about this that I'm like really excited about too is like, all right, let's talk about real-time applications. So you guys already integrate with Go.
Pretty much anything. I mean, we built our own Windows driver. So any application, so like, here I am on Google Meet with you,
Right.
and I click on voice changer.
And now I'm piping through audio in someone else's voice while I'm talking. And actually, speaking of real time, I mean, this tech right now that I'm using is actually our current live version of the tech, which is where we're producing a turnaround in about 300 to 400 milliseconds at this quality, which is a perceivable difference. But our next gen stuff, which is in R&D, is insane. We're getting 30 to 60 millisecond delay on a reasonable GPU. So that is imperceivable. And you basically can't see the difference in my lips. I mean, a lot of people will take the video and run it through, and sort of delay the video to match, which is definitely possible, but that's
Yeah.
not what
I
I'm
mean,
doing. I want to be kind of
absolutely. Yeah.
truthful.
Sure. Yeah. And that's going to be definitely a big question. I noticed you guys even have a whole section on your website dedicated to ethics, right? So the ethics of AI and the ethics of deep fake voice generation and voice changing and stuff like that. So tell me a little bit about your guys's commitment to the ethics of using this in an ethical, legal way, and also what some other examples in the real world are of this type of applicable, real world application.
Our mission really is to, in terms of the ethical application of this, is to educate people about the tech being around. For us, it was more of like a safety concern. As soon as we did it, we realized, hey, this has potential to be used in the wrong way. And we're not the only ones who can build tech like this. So, there's other people building this stuff and you don't know about it. And our focus is on education. And I think that people this year, I think the end of 2022, 2023, people were using AI prior to that. I mean, there were some really great projects that sort of touched a lot of people. There was, Wombo, which a lot of people used on the App Store, which was sort of, using some AI. And then there was, Mid-Journey, Stable Diffusions, people starting to make avatars, and now ChatGPT. And it's like, okay, the world changed. I
Yeah.
think that, I think that people need to be aware of this technology of AI, and how people can leverage it, how people can use it, and just the fact that it exists. So I think that there's a couple different approaches there, but ours is definitely educating people. We want people to know that, hey, if grandma, if you get a call, from little Jimmy at 3 a.m. in the morning, and it's saying, okay, you need to wire Western Union a bunch of
Yeah.
money to Joe Smith, it's probably not real.
Right.
And it's definitely possible for this stuff to happen. So we tell people, educate. That's
Yeah.
that's the key. We want to democratize the AI and get as many
Sure.
people in front of it as possible, and that sort of makes the potential for that kind of stuff to go away.
Yeah. And I think you've noticed a lot, not just with voice AI, not just with video AI, even with text generation AI, with open AI, being so restrictive about who they actually give access to their most powerful models and the method that they give access, because there's no API right now. Not just anybody can attach themselves to the Chat GPT API and let it do, all these real world tasks that everybody thinks it's going to be able to do. You have to be in a browser environment checking for bots with a daily limit, with a generation limit. Like, they have protections against how much you can truly abuse it. And so seeing that, where do you think, in terms of like distribution control and distribution tracking, how do you kind of see that playing into the real world applications?
Yeah, I see all of that as, essentially that's their business decision. That's sort of a business model. So if you want to pretend that there's, scarcity, and that, hey, we're only letting people use it for this, and there's people who are working around that. And our standpoint is that, look, there's open source software versions of this. Large scale language models are not, technically impossible for anyone to do besides OpenAI. There's going to be, or there are already,
Mm,
different versions of the same software. So we take the view of that, letting people know that this exists, and that we're gonna have to rethink a lot of things in the future. We're gonna and
yeah.
and and we're gonna have to
Eh,
rethink, for example, teaching. And kids, I hear them saying, "I'm never gonna write another paper as long as I live.
yeah.
I'm gonna use Chat GPT,
Yeah.
and
Right.
that's gonna be my paper." So I mean, does that mean that we ban the technology, or do we figure out how to sort of
Right.
further ourselves, by standing, with the technology, and being able to leverage the technology? So I think there's, a lot of philosophical,
Yeah, absolutely. No, but
thoughts
it's a
about that.
truly, yeah, it's a truly powerful stance though, to say, you know, like, look, bad actors are going to be bad actors with whatever tech is available out there. Like, everybody, there's always going to be people who, if they have bad intentions, whether they get it from, the source of you, or from an open source repository through a research program or something like that, that's not going to stop. The best thing you can do is use the good use case of it to provide that light and that education around, hey, this is how it can be used, and that's what you should watch out for. But also look how much you can benefit, from the actual positives from it. So I think that's super super smart, and it's a good kind of proven approach to being able to actually advocate for something world changing potentially. So in terms of, first of all, like, use cases, I mean, I can obviously think of a ton, but one of them that comes to mind is, let's say, in the sales world, right? And this is just kind of not my personal opinion, but inherently, if you call and you have an accent, or even sometimes in some industries, if you're not it's not a male calling, and I know that kind of sounds a little sexist, but like in the sales industry,
Mhm.
sometimes females have a bit of a harder time getting to the decision maker and that kind of stuff. And so being able to really just control what you sound like on the other end of the line, that gives sales teams so much power, especially. And so let's just going to the accent part, like just talking about being able to remove an accent. Where do you guys see that in the real world roadmap?
And that's something that, we discussed internally at length. Like, is that something that we want to do? And, we just decided on our roadmap it wasn't the top priority because it's a little bit of a divergent path from our core tech. We really allow the voice to be piloted by the user and piloted in terms of their own accent. So at this time, we don't make the accent changing, available in the app. Part of it's because it slows it down a little. Part of it's because we just don't want to have too many buttons and knobs on day one.
Yeah.
Um, I think that it's a really cool technology. There's great companies that are starting. I think the most funding ever received for a Series A for a speech technology startup was a company called Sonus that out of India, and they just raised a Series A last year. I think it was over $30 million just for accent changing, just for accent
Yeah.
changing
Wow.
and obviously to implement in call centers to reduce bias and increase the quality of the call for the um, whatever person is ending up on the other end of the call center. One of the things with you mentioned about bias and we've seen so far in our beta, we've seen women using the technology to actually go and game so that they don't get harassed. So
Mm,
apparently, and this is something that was sort of new to me, but like people who play first person shooters, there's a girl playing, and she'll get ogled at if she uses her real
right.
voice, and the guys will harass her and
Sure. Sure.
annoyingly, and they shouldn't act like that, obviously. But if she goes on and sounds like a guy, she's not going to get
Exactly.
harassed. And
Yeah.
then, and then we also have transgender people are using the software quite a bit. And it was one of the sort of use cases that we didn't initially think of, but a few members of the trans community reached out to us and said, "Wow, this software is amazing. Can we use this? Would you, and I was like, of course you could use it. Like,
Yeah. Right.
that's what it's
Yeah.
for." So to me, and some of the most compelling use cases that I've seen are people who are have an online persona. There's Twitch streamers using us already.
Right.
There's people who have essentially e-girl personas online that aren't their biological gender,
Right.
and this is how they feel inside, and now they can sound like that. So
Right.
some of the most, and actually I should probably demo something for you if I'm talking. And
See, you know, how this sounds for you. I mean, this is actually a voice that was developed by one of the people on the Discord. Celestria made this voice, Sam V3, and definitely want to plug her on this because she did an amazing job. Um, this voice is a top voice. It's used by a lot of trans people, and it sounds great, and
Yeah.
it's pretty. There's no way that you would know that I'm biologically a male if you just heard my voice and I turned
Exactly.
off my video right now.
Yeah.
You have absolutely no idea.
No, of course. Yeah, and online identity protection or online identity choice, like that's definitely a huge movement in the digital space across the entire Western world. Really, I see it starting to come more in other nations, like especially in Europe as well. It's a which I guess it's still technically Western, but you know what I mean. It's becoming a much bigger movement now to enable that. Because originally people were kind of like, well, you just kind of have to deal with what you're getting, like your voice is your voice and your face is your face, and that's it. But now there's the movement towards virtual avatars, so you can look how you want to look whenever you're online, and now virtual
yeah,
voice generation.
and I think it's becoming a lot more acceptable as well. There's a lot of companies now that are run by an avatar, and that the users of a piece of software don't know who the developer is, and maybe they're just they don't want to be known, and that's something that a few years ago would not really be possible. I don't think it would kind of be,
Yeah.
you know, I decided that I wanted to, be part of the company, publicly. But I guess that is a choice that founders have now of tech startups, is like, do you want to be anonymous?
Yeah.
Do you want to use an anime avatar that was generated by Midjourney, and then a voice on Voice AI, and
Yeah.
hell, you don't even need to talk anymore. You could just use Chat GPT to write your scripts. So
Yeah, literally. Yeah. I know the world is becoming automated, man. I mean, that's and I think it's kind of inevitable. I think humans just go in that way. Like, we're lazy, we're creatures of comfort, and we like to be, do work in the most efficient way possible. So I think it's just kind of the way that a lot of this is going to go. And so one thing that I wanted to touch on, though, that I found super interesting, I was watching one video where it's a storytelling, transcription, so text to speech transcription of um, an entire story. And it was actually a dialogue generated by, I think, ChatGPT between Joe Biden and a monkey or something like that. And the thing that really stood out to me is that, like, if you watch a lot of these AI avatar apps right now, there's really not a lot of inflection in their voice. There's not a lot of tonality changes. Like, everything's pretty monotone. But with this one that I
yeah.
saw with Joe Biden, there was actual inflection. There was actual, like, breaths, and a lot of, like, true character to the voice that made it seem a lot more like as if Joe Biden had really read that before. So where do what are kind of some of the applications you see for that? I can think of a few, but I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on that.
I think that uh, one of the things and one of the reasons why we love this technology so much is that it is true to the actor. So if I'm the one speaking right now and I turn on the voice, it'll sound exactly like me, my exact intonation, my exact intent, essentially.
Yeah.
If you start talking about text to speech, you have heteronyms. Is it wind or is it wind? The text to speech might not know. Is it
Right.
doctor or drive? The text to speech might not know. Is it DR doctor, DR drive? I don't know.
Yeah.
And you sort of start relying on, okay, well, we have this really large scale language model, but text to speech makes mistakes. And the truth is that if you had everything that everyone ever said in the history of the world, and you basically compile that into a large scale language model, then you would be very, very good at predicting stuff, but unseen stuff you might not. And that's sort of the inevitable, where you see the NLU and this technology sort of breakdown is there, in the edge cases. And text to speech is one of those things people are discerning customers and connoisseurs of media and video. There's a little bit more tolerance for, like, a mouth that's a little blurry. um you know um there's a little bit more than for for voice. People are
Yeah.
super sharp, and
100%.
if you hear one tweak in that voice,
Yeah.
it's immediately off,
100%.
and you're like, okay, the uncanny valley response kicks in, and
Yeah.
you say, wow, this is not good. And that's kind of like one of the reasons why we became so passionate about this, is that you really can't tell that it's not, when everything's working right, obviously.
Yeah.
The tech is working right. Text to speech, make up a word and throw it at it and see what happens.
Right.
Take something out of the data, out of context, put poetry in there.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, but then you say, well, it's a big data problem. Just keep throwing data at it, keep throwing data at it, and it'll learn. And it's true. But I think that we're ways from having text to speech that can perform as well as a narrator all the time.
Mhm.
Um, and then the question is, and then when you need to correct where it messes up, how do you do that? Are you writing like speech markup language, like,
Right.
are you kind of saying, okay, say this, emphasize this word, don't emphasize
Yeah.
that syllable, that's the wrong
Yeah.
syllable. How do you say Beyonce? Like,
Yeah.
where's the accent on that word? And then that's kind of the text to speech sometimes has issues with that.
For sure. I think so. I would agree with that for sure. And like I said, the one that I saw from where they were using voice AI did better than any other model I think I've seen. And I've seen, AWS, Amazon's AWS text to speech. I've seen Google's text to speech. There's really no inflection. There's really no dynamic change to the voice. But when it was Joe Biden's actual, like the recording that you guys have or the voice filter that you guys have for Joe Biden, it sounded very, very realistic. And so it seems like we are making, progress in the right direction. And one of the big things for that is that it's such a valuable use case, right? Because so many businesses have to generate so many voice recordings and video recordings and all different kinds of stuff. And I mean, you see like Synthesia, I'm sure you've seen them, that avatar generating thing. And they even have big corporations reaching out to them to try to use them for like, employee onboarding and training and stuff like that. But again, the voice is just very bland. There's not a lot of inflection. There's not a lot of, realism to the voice.
It'll get better. I mean, I mean, I'm sure you've seen these YouTube videos where they're completely scripted by TTS, and
Right.
they're like, they're sometimes pretty absurd. And I'm like, why is this? Why is this still playing? Like, why didn't I shut this
Yeah.
off yet? People have some tolerance for it. Like if they're kind of, background noise, like, hey, there's some video and it's talking about I don't know, it's like, lion versus tiger, and it's explaining all
Yeah.
like lion versus shark. I know you've probably seen some of those YouTube videos, and it's like
Yeah.
it's clickbait sort of YouTube narrated by text to speech with automated images that are kind of stock images that are just kind of
Right.
Ken Burns effect moving a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it's I like to say that, for our tech, we want it to be really good. We want it to be accurate. And if people are going to use this as part of their digital identity, and that's one of the things that we think about in the future, like when people interact online, one of the big use cases is gaming.
Yeah.
People are using this when they're playing games, and it's like if I'm playing a game and I'm playing, I don't know, Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm this giant or orc or whatever. Am I
Yeah.
going to sound like Heath, or am I going to sound like that? And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of that's one of the big use cases for us, is like, can you really be a character with this? Can you really do that? And I think, yeah.
Yeah. That's super exciting too.
That's one of the crazy things that we in terms of the people who are coming on the platform, and they're making voices, they're expressing themselves online. They're you know super good community that we've built. Right now it's 25,000 people on the Discord. I can't even believe it.
Wow.
How that's since November. So it's really
Wow.
growing fast.
25K since
Yeah, it was
November. We're in January. That's
there was
awesome, man. That's crazy.
So, and yeah, to give you the timeline, last year, earlier in the year, we started like really small alpha test with like 100 people. And then we
Yeah.
started to just like let people in the beta slowly, but it was super closed until November. And then like, I think it was like November, we tried to do it at the beginning of November, but it ended up, we had some issues technically. So we had to move it a little bit, but it was like maybe November 10th or November 13th or whatever. And all of a sudden it was like, wow, okay, we need more servers, we need more bandwidth, we need, this is insane. And we couldn't believe like how fast it definitely just took off, but in a way that the community's really determining. Like they said to me today, hey, you know what, you need to do this. this
Yeah.
this is this is this tech, you guys need to fix this or fix that or make this work better, or hey, this doesn't work for singing, hey, please make a singing model. Say yes,
Yeah.
we built the singing model and it'll be out soon.
Wow. Wow.
So
Wow. Wow.
yeah, so
A
so
singing
we're
model, so it's gonna what? It's gonna change your voice to just singing?
it will let's just say that it'll allow you to sing as if you knew how to sing.
Oh, Oh,
I can't
that's
tell
I've
too much
never
about
known
it.
how to sing. I'm so excited for I will be a user 100%. I love to sing, but I'm terrible at it, so that'll be great for me.
That was actually one of our core value props that we're talking about, is that like everyone, so a lot of people aren't comfortable with their voice, number one, and they're
Yeah.
shy because they're not comfortable with their voice. I think, you know, podcasters, obviously they become used to it because you're doing editing and you're getting,
Yeah.
you know, you're hearing yourself. But like I feel like for a regular person, they hear themselves on a voicemail and they're like, that's what I sound like. And there's actually this effect, because when you hear yourself, your voice is reverberating inside of your own skull, and it sort of gives you a deeper, more rich sound than you actually have in real life. So you envision your voice sounding to others the way that it sounds to you, and then when you hear it, it sounds all tinny and light, and you're like, I don't sound like that, do I?
Yeah.
Do I really sound like that? Yeah, that's your voice. And it's like, okay, you know, your voice isn't spectacular. It's just a normal voice, but people aren't comfortable with it. And the other thing is that everyone wishes that they could sing and that they had pipes, you know, and that's
Cool.
kind of one of the, you know, the use cases that we found was super compelling. So
Yeah.
we have some cool
So
stuff coming up
exciting.
there.
Yeah, I can't wait I'm gonna check in with you after that launches for sure. That's definitely one exciting use case and feature that I can see. What else do you see on the horizon this year that you are just incredibly excited about with real world applications?
Well, yeah, I think that for us, the ultra real time, super fast model is a big game changer.
Mm,
I think that, you know, and you know, it's a game changer. And the reason why, I mean, you know, you're listening to text to speech, or you're listening to this technology, and there's a delay between, you know, it being created. It takes more resources. Um, there's 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 use cases that aren't possible because of the speed being slow. One of the things that I think would be amazing would be if I could be speaking and you would actually hear me in another language,
mm.
um,
Yeah, real
as
time
I'm speaking.
translation.
And really, yeah, and I think that those sort of, you know, they're a little ways off, but I think that, you know, accurate anyway is a little ways off. But
Yeah.
I think that some of those use cases and just being able to, you know, feel more comfortable online is, you know, just that use case is enabled by being able to be ultra real time. You know, if I'm using the voice changer and there's like a little pause before I speak, like people might pick up on it. They might be like, answer me faster, or why are you taking so long to answer me? And you know, if you're online, it could be just the delay, it could be the lag. You know, there's sometimes a second of delay on a video call, and it's just how it is.
Mhm.
um but that said, you know, uh, it- being faster and being real time will enable more and more use cases of the
Mhm.
tech, and that's, I'm really excited about that.
Gotcha. Cool, man. But awesome. Well, okay, Heath, we are getting close to the end here. You know, I don't want to take too much more of your time, but this is, like I said, one of my favorite topics that I've gotten to discuss and been able to showcase. And I wanted to just show a quick little um, website for everybody that is watching in case you guys want to see a quick preview. This is the website. So it's voice.ai, real time AI voice changer. Right now, they're accepting beta members for Mac. And then are you guys open beta for Windows? Anybody can download it on Windows?
Yeah, so Windows is open beta. For Mac, it's actually technically pre-order right now,
Right.
and
Yeah,
so is iOS and Android. And you know, people ask like, why should I pre-order? Well, we're going to give free credits to the people who pre-order. So
for sure.
when it launches, if you join after that, it may, you know, you may not get those free credits. So pre-order.
Got it. Yeah.
And you know, we're trying to get those apps out still in Q1, so we're pushing hard for that.
Yeah. And so as you can see down here, you have Skype, Discord, WhatsApp, Zoom, Google Meet, Steam, PUBG, Fortnite. I mean, just tons of integrations here. And I'm sure much more to come. So if you guys want to check that out, make sure to go to voice.ai and give it a quick look. And if you're on Windows, make sure to download the beta. I think it's definitely going to be worth playing around with. Um, so Heath, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for hopping on here today. I think you're gonna get a lot of people reaching out asking about how can I get my hands on this. So of course, like we said, best way I assume is to join the beta. That's join the preview if you're on Mac, or join open beta if you're on Windows, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have questions, join the Discord. There's people there that'll help you, get it working. If you have any technical issues, basically you just set the driver, our driver as your input device for the program that you're using instead of your mic, and it will change it. So that's
Cool.
pretty much it. But yeah,
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much again. And until next time, guys.